Today we're going to talk about pronouns, which are a particular type of word. They're a word that we use in the place of a noun. So if you take this example over here, the sentence says, Mr. Dyson loves talking about grammar. He finds it exhilarating. These two sentences here. What we've done is we've taken this first noun here. This is a proper noun, as we know. Mr. Dyson is a proper noun. Loves talking about grammar. And then grammar, we've got here what we call an abstract noun. Right? It's not one of those concrete nouns that we can pick up and touch. It's one of those abstract nouns like concepts or feelings or a collection of rules. So grammar. But they're two nouns. And so because they're nouns, then we can use pronouns to replace them. So in this case, we've got the personal pronoun he, and that is replacing Mr. Dyson. And then we've got another personal pronoun, it, to replace talking about grammar. Okay, why do we bother? Well, it's to take some of the repetition out of our language. It would be very sort of confusing and repetitive and boring if we kept having to say the actual noun. Even just these two sentences. It would say, Mr. Dyson loves talking about grammar. Mr. Dyson finds talking about grammar exhilarating. It's already getting a little strange and repetitive with just two sentences. So we use personal pronouns to replace nouns that have come earlier in our writing. When we're talking about personal pronouns, they are words like he, him, she, her, it, I, we, they, them. So all of these are personal pronouns, this one here. So personal pronouns are one of lots of different types of pronouns. But let's just talk about personal pronouns because they are used a lot because they can replace people or things in a sentence, and in some cases places. So they're words like this. But why, the question you may be wondering, are there different types? So why couldn't we have him up here instead of he? They're both personal pronouns. Well, we know it doesn't sound right. Mr. Dyson loves talking about grammar. Him finds it exhilarating. But why is that the case? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you now. The reason him finds it exhilarating wouldn't make sense is because of our sentence structure and how we have a subject and then a verb and then an object. And the subject is the thing in the sentence that's performing the action, while the object is the thing in the sentence that's receiving the action. To remind you of an example we've used before, Romeo loves Juliet. Then in this sentence, Romeo is the subject, loves is the verb, and Juliet is the object. So Romeo is performing the action of loving, the action is loving, and Juliet is receiving the action. And if we flip it around, we would have Juliet is being loved by Romeo. The point when it comes to personal pronouns is that all of these personal pronouns here are the ones that we use when we're describing the subject or replacing the noun that was the subject. Whereas all of these ones here are the ones that we use to replace nouns that were the object in a sentence. And if you get those the wrong way around, it doesn't make sense. So Romeo is a subject, we would have to pick from this group and we would say he loves Juliet if we were replacing it. If we used him, it wouldn't make sense. Him loves Juliet. Doesn't make any sense. Let's show you another example. So if we were to say a sentence like, she gave them a lesson. We have got she being the personal pronoun that replaces the subject, so not her, and then gave them, and this is the object, because this is the thing that's receiving the action, being given a lesson. So she, subject, gave them a lesson. You couldn't have her, gave, they a lesson. It would be mixed around, the wrong way around, and it wouldn't make any sense. If you were to have it the other way around, they gave her a lesson, you will see that because this personal pronoun has gone from being in the object position to the subject position, then it's changed from being them to they, because it's become the subject. And likewise, this personal pronoun she has gone from being in the subject position to the object position, receiving the action, and so we have to pick from this list and use her because it's now an object. So you do this instinctively. You know what sounds right and what sounds wrong, but this is an explanation of why that is the case, because you're picking personal pronouns to replace nouns that are either in the position of subject in a sentence or in the position of object in a sentence. Now, there are generally not a lot of problems with this. People know which one to choose. But there is one big area that trips people up, and that is with this personal pronoun and this personal pronoun. When to use I and when to use me. And it's such a big problem that we're going to do a whole lesson on it, and that's coming up next.